The actor and activist Sean Penn has been committed to raising awareness about the country's needs in its battle against Russia. He recently returned from a new trip to the war zone and is issuing an urgent new warning to President Biden about sending F-16s to the country. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. So you've said this, and I'm quoting you now. Let me read the quote. The Ukrainians are going to fight till the last drop of blood, and that drop of blood will be on our hands if we don't faithfully equip them. How badly do you believe Ukraine really needs these fighter jets?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, having just returned from Ukraine about 10 days ago or so, is that the impact of President Biden's trip was extraordinary. I mean, that's extremely encouraging. I think that one of the things that's concerned me, and I think that there's no question, but that they need more ammunition, more long-range precision weapons, and yes, fighter jets. The issue really is that right now they're dying, every day they're dying. So what we're waiting for seems to still be attached to this, I would argue, overcautious concern related to nuclear weapons, because for one thing, if we're going to live in a world where a bully with nuclear weapons runs the show, there was a former intelligence officer I'd spoken to in Ukraine at one point. He said, he doesn't want to live in that world, and Ukraine won't. And so I just think we have to make a clear decision to start saving lives, saving infrastructure. And what that means is supplying the Ukrainians. They have no interest in having Americans or others in the fight. They're ready to take the fight themselves. And their ability to transition on these platforms, be it the F-16s or when it comes to the Patriot, is not. I don't think there's been an honest conversation about how quickly they can transition. I think there's a lot in the air about how long it takes, how maintenance, fueling, all of that. But there are many ways in which that can be, sped up tremendously.
As you know, President Biden flatly says that President Zelensky, quote, and I'm quoting the president right now, doesn't need F-16s now. So I wonder how you respond to President Biden.
I would like to think that he's speaking to an audience of one in Moscow and that there's already activity. But I think that it's saying that he blanketly, that he and the Ukrainians don't need F-16s now. Well, again, I would say they're dying now. The infrastructure is collapsing now. So I don't understand. I don't have a logic processing about that.
As you know, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with about $30 billion in various forms of military aid since the war began a year ago, and provided a whole range of sophisticated weapons that no one expected at the start of this war. It's very impressive what the U.S. and the coalition partners are doing.
Very impressive, and it should be understood that if one does the breakdown when it comes, for example, to the F-16, the aircraft themselves are a one-time buy. The maintenance, which can be done by contractors and then backfill them ultimately with Ukrainians as they train into it, all of that told is a very small part of what we're talking about when we're talking about $30 billion.
How concerned are you, Sean, when you hear the growing criticism coming from some Republicans over what they call a blank check to Ukraine, including from a top potential contender for the Republican presidential nomination, Governor Ron DeSantis?
Well, much more intelligent people than myself or Governor Ron DeSantis can speak to the way in which we will actually be saving not only lives but money in the long term. And we know the food security issues for so much of the world that exist, the costs that are tied to a protracted war are far greater than what it would cost to do exactly what needs to be done today.
You, of course, just released a documentary, Sean, entitled Superpower, chronicling this war and President Zelensky's leadership. What is President Zelensky's mindset as this war drags into a second year now?
Well, I would say the president and the Ukrainians at large. I think I'm, like a broken record here because you've heard this from so many people. Their resolve continues to grow. It's an incredible moment in time. I sort of think of, that the Beatles only came out of Liverpool, and there are these moments in time where a group of people or a place comes to represent something that is just that exceptional that lasts forever. And the courage of the Ukrainians at this stage in this game is going to be a piece of history we'll never forget.
You've called the Russian President Vladimir Putin a creepy little bully. What will it take, do you believe, to convince him that he's fighting a losing battle?
I haven't understood his decision to do this from the very beginning. I can't claim to have any understanding of it, short of evil power grabbing or attempted power grabbing. I think that he has to understand that his generals have been lying to him about what he had of a military, and that in a kleptocracy like that, everybody's been skimming, and now he's found out that this might not have been such a great idea. But I don't know what his back out position is.
Sean Penn, thanks so much for joining us.